This week's episode is talking about what happened to us as we got older. We were young, we explored, we were creative, we said fuck failure. And at some point, we put ourselves in a box. We got older and have the opportunity for more and more opportunities and things to do ourselves that we were wishing we could do as kids. But instead of continuing to make ourselves uncomfortable, continuing to take these opportunities and run with them, we chose to stay in our box. And I know I'm guilty of it in many aspects of my life and different things where there were points that I could have chosen to continue to pursue or stay in my own little box. And there are plenty of examples that I think that really, looking back, are areas that I maybe could have pursued a little bit longer to explore and push my own limits, but I didn't. And then there are plenty of other times that I have and can think of that I was scared shitless trying to do something. I had no idea what was going to happen, and it was very uncomfortable, very nerve-wracking, very on edge to be able to do that. I think really as we got older, more and more experiences had life just kick us in the ass. And instead of getting up, swinging back, we just stayed down. I think that there are plenty of times that I've done that, like I said. And the biggest example I think of when we're being a kid versus getting older is walking, talking, doing things ourselves, being independent as a child. Those are all things that were huge tasks for us back in the day that we now really just take for granted. But thinking back on it, I don't know about you, but I'm sure as shit pretty confident that I didn't just start walking immediately when I tried. I would, just like the videos you see of kids all the time, they get up, they kind of stand, and then they fall over. And we probably did that thousands of times before we were able to walk. And it took days, weeks, months to be able to do that once we got to that point. But we never gave up. Maybe because that was a social norm that everybody else was walking, but that's a different topic all in itself. But we were faced with a challenge at a very young age, and we didn't back down from it. But now, things that feel uncomfortable, things that we aren't immediately good at, we don't always continue to pursue, even if we really, really want it. And what about getting older and losing that innocence of screw failure? I don't know what failure is. Changed to now we have this mental construct, mental idea that if we fail, it's the end of the world. We lose these opportunities for accomplishments, for things that can happen to be able to do what we want, to be able to pursue and achieve the things that we truly want, because we're not going to get it immediately, because we're not going to succeed our first try. But we have to be okay with that. We were so okay with that as a kid, trying to say hippopotamus, trying to stand up, trying to feed ourselves, cut our own food, all things that we had zero clue how to do, and we needed to do ourselves. Like, these are all things that we did ourselves. I'm not even trying to talk about the other aspects of our lives that maybe our parents helped us and pushed us towards, like sports, making us go to practices, um, learning a new instrument when we were a kid, learning a new language, like all things that we didn't give a shit if we were bad at necessarily as kids. We were a lot more open and willing to look like idiots because we didn't have a sense of understanding to the level that we may now of, damn, I'm gonna look dumb. But that's okay. Like, looking dumb is part of this process to get to where we are. We have failed so many times, so many areas that we've looked dumb, that we have really just not been the best. Walking, running, talking, like, first words weren't what we sound like now. They were it's in pieces of different words that we thought we heard. We looked dumb. Like, brass tacks look stupid. But we continued to figure it out until we got to the point of communicating, of walking. And we failed, and we failed, and we failed again. And there was a point where failing and looking stupid and being judged became a higher priority than continuing to pursue areas that we're interested in, continuing to explore new interests, being able to push our limits and develop ourselves because of that fear of failure, because of that like being judged and the judgment that comes along with not getting it right away. A couple of, I know my own examples that for me forced me out of my own comfort zone. The biggest one is doing this podcast, starting Build Your Alpha. I had zero clue what in the name of sweet Jesus I was doing when I started this. I knew the topics that I wanted to do and discuss. I knew I was going to need to get a microphone of some sort. Other than that, in case you couldn't tell from the first episodes to now, I was figuring it out. The sound of the episodes, the tone, the flow, the comfort level of talking on the mic, drastically different than now. And it's just continuing to develop. The more and more research I do, the more and more that I'm learning to get into this. But at first, I had zero idea what in the Sam hell I was doing. But I knew that this was something that I wanted to do. And that if I wanted this, I was going to have to be okay with looking dumb. I was going to have to be okay with maybe having some people listen to the first few episodes and be like, not really feeling it, doesn't sound good, or whatever the reasoning may be, but still had to continue to move forward, continue to work on it, continue to do research and do things. So I'm now at the point where I'm having people reach out to me. People are having conversations, bringing up topics that I'm talking about, and continuing these conversations that these episodes are talking about. And that is the best feeling. Like, but I wouldn't have gotten even here if I didn't just say screw it and start. Like, yeah, I stood up, may have kind of wobbled and fallen a little bit with the first couple of episodes, not really having that flow and that personality into it, but I never would have got there if I didn't just start. And really the other biggest one, in my opinion, for me, of taking that risk, pushing my own comfort zone, was living alone, it was something where I was responsible for myself at all times. I had nobody else to really answer to necessarily. I didn't have roommates. I needed to consider if I was going to bring people over, if I was going to go out all night, or any of that, or making sure that all my bills were paid on time, because now my name was the one on all of the bills, the BG&E, the Wi-Fi, the this, the that, the other thing. Everything was in my name. It was all on me at this point, where everything needed to be paid on time. I needed to make sure that I had reminders set up. I had enough funds in all my accounts to be able to pay these, to be able to do all this stuff. And yeah, there was a little bit of a learning curve. It was the first couple of months constantly checking bills and the apps and setting up auto pays and communicating with the BG&E, with the Wi-Fi to make sure that everything was paid timely so my electric didn't go off. So I had a place I could come home to and feel comfortable, making sure that my rent was paid so my landlord wasn't evicting me. Like, all these things were 100% on me to make sure that they were done on time. They were done right. And it was the first time. This is the first time that I have lived alone where all of this is on me. And it's just another opportunity to learn. Thank God for this one. In an extreme case, I didn't have the option to fail. So being overly cautious, overly aware was something that needed to happen. But I did it. And I figured out within the first couple of weeks, all right, this is where I got to reach out to. This is who I got to talk to. And asking questions during the process, especially for that, was hugely important to be able to get everything set up. And asking questions for anything, I think, is something that we need to feel more comfortable with when we're starting out. So this is the question that I want to leave you with this week. When the hell did we grow up? When was the last time that you continued to pursue something that you really wanted? And if you stopped, was it because you realized you didn't truly want it? Or was it because the results weren't coming fast enough for you? Was it that you were failing what you thought was failing too often, and you were worried about being judged by people that you know? So that's it for this week's episode. I hope you guys really enjoyed my take on growing up, losing this innocence to continue to pursue things and fail, and how it is great to be able to be an adult and have the ability to grow up and do grown-up things that we couldn't do ourselves when we were kids. But how it's also, in my opinion, put shackles on so many of us to keep our ability to grow without that knee-jerk reaction of judgment or failure that I feel so many of us worry about. I am really looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts and your opinions on this week's episode. Please do leave a comment. Follow our social media pages at Build Your Alpha, and I do hope that you join us next week. But until then, take every day as a blessing, because the next is not guaranteed. So take that chance, be authentic, and always know that you are the only you.